Hi everyone, welcome back to another gameplay of Infinitode 2. So welcome to this video where I'm gonna show you guys 7 secret interactions that you may not be aware of. Things that I've discovered as I've now been playing the game, as I've been trying different strategies, and yeah, certain stats, certain passives that work especially good once you max Endless, right? So once you max the possible output damage from towers, you can really analyze and see the things more clearly. And so I'm gonna jump straight away to the very first secret interaction, and that is regarding Basic's third ability. Basic's third ability is gonna very simply increase rotation, projectile speed, and it's gonna give a certain chance to projectiles to bounce to another enemy. Now this bouncing is infinite, so that means that in this case with max endless is 84%. Each time that the projectile bounces to a new target, so to a new enemy, you have another 84% chance of jumping it to another one, and then jumping again and again. So this jumping can be just back and forth, right? Even between two enemies, it can just go back and forth. It's just RNG, and potentially it can be infinite. But the secret thing about this upgrade is that despite the fact that you don't lose any damage, so each bouncing you keep doing the same amount of damage from the first projectile, so you don't lose damage over time as it happens with other towers. But what you lose is you lose projectile speed, and it looks also pretty cool. So that's what I'm going to show you to you here. And I want to pay attention to the after here this first waves where enemies are too weak. Pay attention here to the bouncing and to the projectiles. The fact that they become increasingly slowed down, like the projectile just moves slower and slower and slower. And that's the secret thing, you know, because I don't know how many of you knew that like you don't potentially lose any damage with this upgrade, and the potentially like the bounces could be infinite, but the fact that you lose every time, you lose more and more and more projectile speed, means that it's gonna be harder to even reach the enemy to proc the next bounce. So that's why the bounces are not infinite. And I don't know if you could see there, like see the projectiles like moving slower and slower and slower the more they bounce. And yeah, I can see here that the bouncing can be back and forth, can be in any direction. And look at that one, look at this one, how slow it was. So it's just interesting to notice this, and especially you can see it on endless because it's a very high percent of this bouncing occurring, and with enemies being so tanky that you can actually see, like you cannot one-shot enemies, and so you can see more this ricochet in action. So yeah, that's the first, you know, secret interaction. The second one regards anti-air, and I'm gonna have to go here to 3.1 because it's a level that has flying enemies. This tower is like I could consider it like the worst tower in the game, because it's gonna be limited to attacking only two types of enemies, helis and jets, so only flying enemies. And for this reason, yes, the ultimate can help you to create the mines to damage even other enemies, but regardless, like it's a pretty bad tower. But it has a very, very interesting passive that you might not be aware of, and it's the burning. Like this is the only tower in the game that the special stat that you can see here has a chance of setting the enemies on fire, so setting helis and jets on fire. Now this burning is going to actually slow down the flying enemies. So it's the only instance in the game where a burning slows down. If you think about any other burning, like flamethrower, like minigun level 10, the setting enemies on fire always removes and makes the slow from freezing or from any other source. For example, for flamethrower level 3 is gonna make this slow less effective, only 33% as effective. Instead, for anti-air, it doesn't happen like that. The ignite, this burning actually slows down the flying enemies, and so this is actually the only way how you can slow down jets, because with freezing, you know, you can slow down helis, so that's fine, but jets cannot be slowed down. You can see, so the only way you can actually slow down jets is with this passive from anti-air, with this burning. And I'm gonna actually show you here in action, because there should be some waves here very early of flying enemies, so it should be easy to to see. And see the burning here and see the slow. So it's pretty considerable, the slow. I don't know exactly the actual percentage of slow. I think it's like 25%. Yeah, it's especially effective against jets, because jets normally are enemies that move quite fast, and so the slow, it's super useful. And the fact that you cannot slow down jets in any other way makes it interesting. You know, it might not be game changing, but it's just one way that you can exploit this tower, and you can just use it, you know, a little bit more efficiently. So yeah, it's just nice to see this in action. And you can see also that the tower has a very interesting way to attacking enemies. Like once it sets an enemy on fire, it's gonna try to set all the other enemies on fire, and then it's gonna start following the upgrade that you, sorry, the how it's called, this one, the targeting that you have set it up. So random or first or last or whatever, but first is always gonna try to set all the flying enemies on fire, so to proc the passive. And yeah, that's the second thing. You know, maybe you guys were not aware of it, so yeah, it's just interesting. And third thing is, once again, regarding anti-air. In this case, this is more of like a tip, because of the fact that once you max this upgrade right here, called the price of anti-air, you actually make anti-air the cheapest tower in the game. This happens only for endless. Yeah, once you have this upgrade max, that means that your anti-air base cost is only 21 coins. And this is cheaper than basic, is cheaper than the balance modifier. So it's the cheapest upgrade in the game. And that's why anti-air becomes so good as a platform filler. So when you're playing on endless, right, and so enemies are gonna walk on platforms, you can actually set a very easy anti-air, right, and you can force enemies to go the longer way around. And so this is just useful, you know, to be able to minimize the amount of coins you're gonna have to spend for this. Of course, considering everything on endless, like once you have a lot of coins to start with, once your towers are super strong, you're not gonna even have to worry about enemies cutting short. But for certain scenarios, it can be useful. For example, when you're farming on 6.3 and you're really trying to minimize the amount of coins you spend at the beginning, you can very easily force the boss to go a longer way around by just placing 2 anti-airs right here. And so right away, you have spent only 42 coins and you have already filled these 2 platforms, so the boss has to go the long way around. And you can even use like another anti-air right here, right? And then you can just go for splash and like a modifier on this side, but potentially you could even get like another anti-air there. So it's just a very like the cheapest way to fill a platform to force enemies the long way around. So yeah, that's just it. Fourth thing regards the differences in penetration of different towers. So far in the game, we have 3 different towers that are going to have roughly the same passive on the first ability. We're talking here about Sniper, Splash, and Multi-Shot. And unfortunately, though, 2 of these towers are going to be benefiting a lot less from this passive than Splash. In this case, for example, Sniper, if you just read the ability description, says the bullets can penetrate enemy and can give 60% more damage to the enemy behind it, but it's only 1 enemy. So that means that you could potentially damage 2 enemies at once, and that's it. Like you cannot damage more than 2 in this way. And the same applies here to Multi-Shot. If you read the description of the ability, every bullet is gonna penetrate the first enemy, is gonna give 15% extra damage to the next enemy, so to the enemy behind it. And that's it. So only, once again, in this case, you have a certain amount of projectiles. So each projectile has this chance. So every bullet has this chance of penetrating. So at the end of the day, this you can affect a lot more enemies with this. That, for example, with Sniper is just limited to a single target. So it's always going to be only 2 enemies. With Multi-Shot, considering the angle and all that, you can potentially affect multiple enemies. But again, it's only gonna be 1 enemy. On Splash instead, the first ability is gonna allow bullets to penetrate every next enemy. You're gonna be losing damage in this case because of course this is infinite. So that means that you can penetrate potentially an infinite amount of enemies. So there is no cap. It's not like for multi-shot and for sniper, that's only the enemy behind it, right? Or the next enemy. But this one is every next enemy. You lose every time, you lose 22% damage. So you do 22 less damage, and then you do 22 less and less and less. So the damage decreases over time. And of course, that means that like the 6th, 7th enemy receives very little damage, but you can still, you know, damage it a little bit. And yeah, so that's the huge difference, you know, between like sniper, multi-shot, and splash, that have you know, this very common, this very similar ability, but splash is radically different. The fact that it can affect an infinite amount of enemies. And yeah, that's just it, you know. Fifth thing is the laser ultimate. Laser ultimate, many of you guys know it, you know, it's very strong because it's gonna increase the damage that the tower can do by an infinite amount of stacks. Once again, this stacks infinitely, and on many scenarios this is not as good as it sounds. Well, for the very simple reason that if I'm gonna just run, for example, here a gameplay, right? The main problem with this is the fact that it only lasts 24 seconds. So yes, you can gain a lot of stacks in these 24 seconds, but then after that time, you're gonna start losing the first stacks that you were able to gain, right? So you end up like gaining new stacks from the new enemies killed, but then you also start losing the stacks from the first enemies that you killed. So yeah, the beginning is just gaining, right? This percentage damage increases by a lot, and then you start see that it increases, decreases, and just depends on the waves. So if it has a lot of enemies, then normally it becomes higher. If it has less enemies, like for example these waves here, it's gonna decrease. So yeah, it's pretty good, you know, early on, but then as enemies get stronger and stronger, they get more HP, it's harder to kill them. So you end up like having only maybe 1%, 100% more damage, maybe 50%, then you lose it completely because you cannot even kill the enemies. So yeah, on many maps, and especially on very high percentages on difficulty, this ultimate, despite the fact that it can stack ultimately, you can never see if it can stack infinitely, sorry, you can never see the full potential. The only way you can see the full potential is when you try this ultimate on 6.3. Because in this level, the main difference is that enemies will not spawn by the portal, but will get spawned by miners. And the more attack speed your miners get, so the more mining speed they get, the more enemies they spawn. So you can end up spawning thousands of enemies at the same time, many more than you could ever spawn in any other map, despite the fact that you might go with like insta auto wave and all that stuff. And therefore you can really exploit this infinite amount of damage that you can get, because you can literally like get up to 10,000% extra damage from the ultimate of laser here, because you're killing so many enemies at once, and the amount of enemies is not decreasing, right? It's always constant. Actually, it's increasing because you get like more miners, you upgrade them more, you spawn more enemies until you reach the cap amount of enemies, right? Because I think there is a certain cap in the game that doesn't allow you to have a certain, like a higher amount of enemies on the screen at the same time. But yeah, that just allows you to get like 10,000%, maybe 11,000% more damage. And therefore with just one tower, maybe with some extra help with some other ones, you can just destroy every single enemy. So yeah, on 6.3, this ultimate, I think it really shines, and that you can really exploit the fact that it stacks infinitely, right? And now sixth thing that I wanted to show you is Tesla and Minigun ultimates in comparison, because unfortunately I hope that this is going to be changed in the next patches, but Tesla ultimate is super bad. It's super bad for the very simple reason that the ball lightnings that you're going to be creating out of this ultimate are gonna, like, all the enemies that you kill, all the experience that you could get from killing those enemies is completely wasted. So like the is not counted towards the main tower, right? But it's completely lost. So if I just use the ultimate here, see how Tesla like is killing all the enemies, right, that are coming in these waves, and it's leveling up at a pretty decent pace, right? Not super fast, but not even super slow. Now look at what happens as soon as I get the ability. I'm gonna get it at level 25. I'm gonna get it now, and look here what happens. See that it starts like increasing much slower. Look at the kill count, it's not really increasing that much, very slowly, just 1 or 2 enemies, right? And that's because of the fact that the ability here, so the ultimate, is actually killing most of the enemies. And because of it, the experience and the kill count is completely lost. Like all the experience is gone. It's not being given to Tesla, it's just completely erased and lost. So yeah, getting early the ultimate from Tesla is very bad. Like you're always gonna reach at least level 100, so reach the maximum level, and then you want to use the ultimate. So in that way, you're not really wasting an experience because you already have the tower maxed, and so you can just benefit from the additional damage that these ball lightnings can do. But early on, it's always bad. So always a bad idea getting this ultimate, and because, as I said before, like the experience and the kill count is lost. Instead, the main difference, like between this and Minigun, is the fact that actually here I need to restart. Is the fact that Minigun can Minigun ultimate that is gonna create the microguns. So once again, is an external thing that deals damage to enemies. But in this case, the microguns damage and kills and experience are gonna be counted towards the main tower. And this is a huge difference because it's gonna, like, you can get it very early and you can have the extra damage, and at the same time you can make the tower to keep on leveling up fast. So yeah, that's a big difference between Minigun and Tesla, and that's why on Endless, Minigun is stronger than Tesla. For this very simple reason, like if you exclude any other external factors and any other things, the fact that with the microguns, you know, all the experience, all those skills are counted towards the main tower, so you can keep on leveling up fast, makes it better. And of course, these microguns you can have up to maximum of 6. Sometimes they spawn on very bad spots, for example this one, so it's very close. So if enemies can just push a bit forward, they're gonna destroy this microgun. But yeah, they have a lot of range. Like they have actually 5% more range than the range of Minigun. So you actually have an insane range from these microguns, and yeah, so that's the big difference. So you can see that this minigun is like leveling up much faster, all the kills are counted, the experience is not lost, and yeah, that's a big difference because it's like very similar to Tesla in terms of how the ultimate works, but it's drastically different because it's gonna keep on giving all the experience to the tower, to the main tower, and it's not gonna be wasted. And now guys, last thing, so 7th secret interaction is gonna be the slow from Flamethrower. Now this one is actually something that I found out very recently, and now if you use the third ability from Flamethrower, you can see it's gonna slow down enemies by 44%. Now this slow though is not immediate, so it's not like an immediate slow, it's gonna be a slow, right? And the more the enemies are attacked by Flamethrower, the more the slow is gonna be applied, up to a maximum of 44%. All right. So that's the thing I want you to look at, right? I'm gonna have to level up this Flamethrower, otherwise it's gonna be super weak. So you can see that the more it attacks the enemies, right? So the more the enemies are in the line of fire of Flamethrower, the more they're gonna get slowed down, up to a maximum of 44%. Now, if you combo this ability with the second ability, right, you can see that the freezing increases, the slow increases by 25%. So that means that you have a total of 69% slow, because it's gonna be 44% plus 25%. Okay, so when you get this one, this is where things get very interesting. It's true that once again, enemies must be attacked by the flamethrower, in range of the flames and all that. So it's not like freezing, you know, that slows in an area. So only the enemies hit with the flames are gonna be slowed down. But look here at the slow, like look how large and how insane the slow becomes once these enemies have been under the flames for quite a lot of time. Like look at this, they move super slowly, and actually this slow is the highest slow in the game. It's even higher than the slow from freezing. See here, like I'm not leveling up the tower so that you can see, like I don't destroy the enemies so quickly, right? Yeah, it's an insane slow, and it's a 69% maximum slow, which is higher than freezing, because freezing here the maximum percent it's 65. So I'm gonna now just get here of freezing so you guys can see it. Yeah, increasing the damage as well. But yeah, if you like max it out, if you just make it to level up, you're gonna see that the freezing percent can only go up to 65. So if you compare 65 to 69, you can see 69 is slightly higher. It's not super high, right? It's just 4% more, but it's slightly higher. And yeah, so that's just an interesting interaction. Of course, you can use these towers together, and remember that the strongest total slow is going to be applied. So if the flamethrower can slow down by 69%, enemies are going to be slowed down by that amount and not by 65, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. But yeah, just interesting, you know, to notice the fact that the slow flamethrower is not instant, you know, it's gonna be applied over time, and that the maximum slow is actually higher than freezing. So that's it, guys. Those are the 7 secret interactions on things that I found out, you know, by just playing out the game. And how many did you know, and how many were new for you? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see ya. Bye bye.